Yo, what's going on guys? Arekkz here, welcome back to another Monster Hunter World video, and today is a super exciting day. As you can probably tell by the footage playing in the background, Capcom released a brand new Monster Hunter World trailer, and this time it is an absolutely incredible trailer. Some of you guys might remember back at E3 when they released the kind of announcement trailer. It didn't exactly do the best job of sort of showcasing what the game was, and for a lot of people that were in the press conference, they were left a little bit confused as to what exactly the game was about, unless of course you follow Monster Hunter. Anyway, fast forward to today, they finally released a new Monster Hunter World trailer, and this one not only showcases a new area, a new map called the Wildspire Wastes, according to the trailer title. It also shows off some new and returning monsters, and it also does a really good job of effectively showcasing what Monster Hunter is all about. Like, Monster Hunter trailers in the past have typically been like really exciting, loads of cool stuff going on, and that is exactly what we got in this one. So I highly encourage you guys to watch it. I've linked the original trailer in the description box down below, but of course, the purpose of this video is that we're going to be breaking it all down, taking a look at each individual frame, speaking about everything that we've seen. So if you do enjoy this, then a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below if you have any questions, and let me know what you guys think. But let's not waste any time, let's dive straight in. And the very first thing we see is this scene here. Of course, it is nighttime, or kind of dusk, getting a little bit later. This is a new area. It's a kind of desert area, as you'll see a little bit later. Hanging from the tree there, that is of course one of those little glow bugs that you can grapple onto with your slinger. And swimming down there appears to be a new monster. We get a look at those or that a little bit later in the trailer, but for the time being, keep an eye on that. Jumping over to the next scene, we of course see another big open expanse. So typically in Monster Hunter history, for those of you guys that are new, there are a few maps that we come to expect in the series, namely some sort of jungle, some sort of desert, some kind of tundra like snowy area, and some kind of volcano. So this fills the desert void. We also see one of the smaller monsters, the ones that typically kind of roam the areas. So in the jungle or the ancient forest, you guys would have seen the Aptonoth, whereas this one is more than likely an Apseros. So it's kind of the one you'll see in the desert. Same sort of thing. They're generally speaking harmless, unless of course you attack them, then they might headbutt you. But they are the smaller monsters that just patrol around. You'll farm them for materials, meat, that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, not anything to worry about. So jumping over to the next scene, we now get a really cool time lapse. So it shows kind of going from nighttime all the way through to daytime. You see these really cool rock structures here. Everything about it just looks incredible. And then we jump over to some actual kind of action sequences. So we see these creatures flying in. Now these do look remarkably similar to the ones that we fly in on at the beginning of missions. I don't know at this stage whether they are the same or whether these are kind of like the monster ones that you can fight and then our ones are different. I don't know whether there's a kind of correlation between the species or whether one serves a very particular purpose, but either way, we've seen them before flying around in the sky. Dropping down into the next section, we see the hunter sliding down. Of course, this is something you can do in-game now. If there is like an inclined surface and you run, then you can sort of slide down it. And as we've seen in some of the live stream gameplay, you can also go from that into an attack on different weapons. Something else that's really cool here, I don't really know whether it again serves a purpose, but you can actually see this sort of army of ants marching across the front. So that is that's a pretty cool small detail. I don't know whether they'll like be a hint to something. Maybe we follow them and they go to, I don't know, a material or a mushroom, kind of like how moss wine often lead us to mushrooms. So that could be kind of cool, but seeing them there just makes the whole place look alive. Then we jump over to this section where we are then wading through this pond. Now again, as a reminder, underwater combat is not making a return in Monster Hunter World, so any bodies of water like this will just be things that we either walk through to get from one section of the map to the other, or just, you know, areas that we can kind of walk around. You of course see those swimming fish-like things that we saw at the beginning of the trailer. However, there is something a little bit bigger in this body of water, which we'll get to momentarily. Jumping on to the next scene, we of course see the female hunter with the Anjanath gear, sword and shield, swinging from some of the vines. This is really, really cool. Of course, you can kind of use that to get over the water, as you can see down below. So I imagine there may well be, you know, some kind of reason behind that. Maybe you don't want to go in the water, maybe you don't want to get hit by those monsters. So that's a kind of way to traverse the world a little bit quicker. Looking pretty cool. And then we get on to this scene here. Now, this is our first look at a new monster. Now, as I've said again in previous videos, for those of you guys that are new, typically in Monster Hunter games, we have a smaller monster that is still kind of classified as like a monster you need to hunt, but it tends to be like a raptor or some kind of small dinosaur. Generally speaking, they are easier things to hunt. They're a way to introduce you to the game, and this one over here, have no idea what it's called, but it looks remarkably like it fills that space. And also, if you pay attention to the head, it looks like it's got those feathers on. If you remember this gear we saw from the Insect Glaive trailer, I would be willing to bet this gear may well come from that, because you can see the feathers in the helm, the colour scheme seems to match, so there's a very good chance it may well come from this monster. Now that's of course a very quick glimpse at it right now. We do get to see it in action later on, so I'll speak more about that when we get to it. The next scene, we of course see another female hunter in the green gear we saw before, walking through the desert, and also down here, another really cool detail. There appear to be these little dung beetles rolling around. At first, I stopped and I looked at them and was like, that looks like a face, but it's clearly a dung beetle. So again, very cool, obviously giving us a chance to see other aspects of the desert. So this appears to be a much more kind of condensed area. You of course have high walls around, you've got the kind of pillars there, so I imagine this is one of those kind of areas you probably wouldn't want to fight monsters in because it seems to be quite claustrophobic. After that, we then get a look at a returning monster. This, my friends, is Barroth. You only get a quick glimpse here, but we do get a better look a little bit later. But that is, without a doubt, Barroth, so confirmed. Another monster to add to the list of returning monsters. We of course have Rathalos, and now we have Barroth. Following on from there, a very quick scene of this hunter running with the heavy bowgun through this underground segment of it. So again, that's also cool to see yet another area of this map. These maps seem to be really, really big. You've of course got these like big sprawling open areas. We've got some of these slightly more condensed areas, and then now we also have these like underground cavernous looking areas. So I imagine this will be where, say, some monsters go to sleep, something like that, but it looks very, very cool. And then if we jump over to the next scene, this is also, again, drastically different. You've got this nice kind of purple, almost lavender looking foliage. So you do, within this kind of whole wildlands map, have some quite sort of diverse, different looking areas. So that in itself looks really, really cool. And of course you can sneak through them. I'm assuming this probably fills that stealth void. We've seen in the ancient forest you can sneak in bushes. In this situation, the hunter appears to be crouching. I don't know whether they're just crouching manually or whether this is one of those kind of bushes or kind of like clumps of foliage that you can actually hide in. And over there on the left is actually a look at a brand new monster that we'll get a better look at in just a moment. And of course on the back we also see the Apsaros there roaming around again. Jumping on from there to the next scene, this is where we get a better look at the returning Barroth. Of course before he was covered in mud. This time round he breaks out the ground and there is no mistaking it. That, my friends, for any of you guys that were doubting it before, is without a doubt our good old friend Barroth. So he makes a return, so for those of you guys that were a fan of him, then cool, he's back. Personally, I was never really a huge fan of Barroth, but I'm not going to complain. It's another monster, looks really cool. I imagine it's going to be incredibly fun to fight in Monster Hunter World, and just seeing it in like HD looks really cool. Of course, in this situation, we see the hunters fighting. We've got a bow user, a greatsword user, a sword and shield user. So they're taking it on, and he looks really, really cool. We also get to see a different team of hunters. In this situation, it's the hunting horn, the longsword, and the hammer. But in the next scene, this is really cool, because of course, one of the main moves of Barroth, if you guys haven't played Monster Hunter before, if you haven't encountered it, he covers himself in mud, rolls around, that of course gives us a protection, and then he'll sort of shake in battle and then throw this mud off. Now, in previous games, if you kind of get hit by it, you get the sort of snowman effect. You get caught in mud and you're trying to walk around, but it seems this time around, it's a lot more, I say, quote-unquote realistic. Of course, it's still a game about fighting monsters, but the point is, he then throws these kind of massive mud balls on the ground. If you get caught in them, they appear to heavily slow you down while you're moving. Now, of course, we haven't seen it in actual gameplay, so I don't know what the effect is. I don't know whether you can still attack from within it or whether, you know, you're just forced into this state, but it seems like you're effectively wading through it really, really slowly, so that in itself is going to be quite dangerous because it's then going to leave you open, like in this situation, to getting headbutted from there. However, next, we get another look at this new monster. Now, when this jumps out the ground, it looks remarkably like Levasioth in terms of actual kind of, you know, form factor, even the mouth, and just sort of the general structure or the body of the monster. However, Levasioth, being a lava-based monster, has a lot of kind of like cracks and lava appearing over its body. This one clearly doesn't. Of course, this is, you know, much more desert-focused, swamp-focused, so I'm pretty sure it will kind of belong in the same sort of species as Levasioth, Plesioth, things like that, but of course it is a new monster again. Not entirely sure what the name is just yet. I'm hoping at some point they might kind of confirm on social media, but right now, I don't have a name for that just yet. If I do find it out, I'll put it in the comments down below. Now, this one, obviously, it seems to do a similar kind of thing to Barroth. It seems to spit out mud, making those kind of mud piles again in the water. Now, seeing the hunter moving earlier in the video, it seems like when you're kind of going through thick bodies of water, you're wading, so it might in itself not be an ideal place to fight this monster. Of course, if he kind of likes to fight in there, you may well be at disadvantage. We can see the light bowgun user in the water, still able to fire, so you're of course still able to fight from there, but I don't know whether that have any kind of impact on your movement abilities, other things like that. We see the dual blade user doing that pretty fancy move where you cartwheel all the way down the monster's spine, looking very, very cool, and of course wearing that blue gear as well. Jumping off from there to the next scene, we get another look at this new, what I want to kind of call a raptor-looking monster, although given that it's got feathers, it also looks a little bit like a chicken, so let's call it a raptor chicken, whatever. Point is, this is quite cool. It seems to hold different items, and in this situation we see it dropping a pot, but more importantly, in the next scene, when the Greatsword user goes to attack it, it seems to be holding a rock there, and that then forces you to bounce. So clearly one of the distinguishing behaviours of this monster is that it's going to pick up items. I don't know whether it will then throw them at us, or whether it just use them to try and protect itself, but obviously in this instance, it made a good defense against the incoming Greatsword attack. So that's pretty cool. We of course get to see it not only in the new desert area, but also in the existing ancient forest that we've seen before, so we do know that it'll show up in various different environments. Also in that situation, they fired off something from the slinger, which then seemed to scare it and make it drop its rock. Jumping off from there, we then get a look at another new monster. This one looks incredibly cool. It almost looks like a kind of body of a wyvern that we would expect, the typical form factor, the wings, the legs, but it's then got this sort of chameleon head with like a massive tail. So maybe think like Chameleos meets Yankaku, kind of like that. It's like a chameleon chicken. Either way, looks very cool. Again, seeing it in the ancient forest. It seems to have a very big long tongue so it can slap you from a distance. I don't know whether this will share properties with Chameleos, whereby it can use its tongue to steal items. Again, for those of you guys that might not have played Monster Hunter in the past, Chameleos is a big chameleon looking creature with a very long tongue, and if it hits you with a tongue, it can steal some of your items. So if this does the same, that could be quite annoying. But anyway, it's still pretty cool. And then after that, this, pretty exciting. I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to like this one. Confirmation of another returning monster. We only get a very brief glimpse at it, but there is no denying this, my friends, is Diablos. You can see the double horns there. You can of course see the big identifiable tail. This is without a doubt Diablos. So far we've got 2 returning monsters, Barroth and Diablos, plus 3 new monsters. The one that looks like Levasioth, the one that is a kind of raptor chicken, and of course also the chameleon bird looking thing as well. So that is pretty sweet. Next up, we get an incredible scene showing off some of the weather. We of course know there's a full day and night cycle, but there are also different types of weather, and seeing the hunters running here in the dark, in the rain, just looks really, really awesome. We have an insect glaive user, heavy bowgun, light bowgun, and a gun lance user, of course running towards Rathalos in what looks like the ancient forest. Again, it's an area that I'm not too familiar with, but then obviously we haven't necessarily seen the whole ancient forest, so I'm not too sure whether this is like somewhere they just kind of haven't explored yet, but it seems to be similar to that. So ancient forest in the rain, looking very, very nice. They then transition over to the desert, again running in the kind of open plains. That's where you saw the time lapse. Then jumping back to the beginning, this is actually the ancient forest where you kind of saw the weapon videos where they were fighting great Jagras. That sort of open area to begin with, but in the background looks like sort of sunset, and that looks absolutely incredible. I'm loving the sort of deep orange and red in the sky, so that's really nice. Of course, they're fighting Anjanath. And then for the next couple of scenes, they're basically just sort of like jumping between desert, ancient forest, showing like Anjanath, showing the team running together. We see Charge Blade user, we see the Hunting Horn user, Lance, basically all the different weapons. None of them appear to be wielding new weapons or new armor sets. They're just the sets that we've seen shown in the weapon videos. So on the weapon and armor front, it seems to be pretty much the same. However, for the heavy bowgun, we get to see this cool like going prone move in action. We've seen, of course, the like the Gatling gun before, but this is another cool thing that it seems heavy bowguns can do. You can basically lie down and shoot monsters from there. I'm not too sure whether that will give us any kind of damage increase or anything, but that in itself is pretty sweet, especially if in a situation like this, it is trapped and unable to do anything. Also, interestingly, for the Lance, because I appreciate in the weapon videos, we didn't really get a good look at the Lance, or at least it didn't appear to have anything brand new, but the one thing that it definitely does have in this situation is this interesting glowing shield that appears to be different to the typical kind of Lance counter move. So not entirely sure what it does at this stage. Definitely something to look out for when I go to Gamescom next week, but it does seem that all weapons are going to have something new, even if Lance doesn't seem to be that different from before. Also, jumping back a second, this hammer move, it never gets old. Every time I see this, it's just off the walls insane. But yeah, really looking forward to messing around with hammer in this game for sure. Now, after that bit, once they finish kind of just cycling through all the 14 weapons, just showing them in action very, very briefly against different monsters in different situations, we then get a look at something incredibly exciting. And when I say incredibly exciting, in Monster Hunter trailers in the past, they like to typically tease what is essentially referred to as like the final boss monster. In the Double Cross trailer, they showed this sort of mechanical looking beast, which of course ended up being Atararuka, which was the final boss monster. Obviously in trailers before that, we've seen hints at other quote-unquote final boss monsters, and this one, this is without a doubt going to be a big thing. This is probably going to be one of those huge Elder Dragons. So the setting itself appears to be some kind of volcano. Again, it's an area we haven't seen before, so that in itself is pretty exciting. You can see like a wooden structure over there. Looks like some kind of scaffolding, so I'm assuming that's where, say, hunters might go up to. And of course, then it bursts out the ground, and it's got this really dark charcoal kind of burnt-looking body with like lava bits burning around it. So this is probably going to be the volcano area, or maybe like a very specific Elder Dragon area. But this scene is only very brief. After that, it then jumps back to showing you some more hunters just fighting things like Rathalos with some weapons. Nothing drastically new there. I will, of course, however, say in this scene, it seems to demonstrate that the new Levasioth-looking monster appears to be the dominant predator when kind of pitted up against Barroth, because of course, don't forget there's the monster food chain, and as we've seen in some of the previous gameplay, Rathalos beats Anjanath, Anjanath beats Great Jagras, and in this situation, that creature appears to have wrapped itself around Barroth and effectively bites its neck, so I'd be willing to bet in kind of this space, in this plane, then that is the dominant creature. So that's of course something you're going to want to bear in mind, because you can then lean on that in the game. You could then lead Barroth, say, towards the swamp, because it typically then likes to roll in muddy puddles to try and get mud on itself, so you could then probably trick it into going into the area and then getting into a fight with that monster, so that could be pretty sweet. However, after that, it then does jump back for one final look at the monster. The first scene was, of course, it kind of coming out the ground, and there were these rocks on top of it, so it's almost like it was underground, and then finally it's like raising its head. It's definitely got a very clear sort of dragon head kind of form to it, so I would be willing to bet all my zenny that this is an Elder Dragon. This is probably going to be like the final boss. In fact, if you look in the back corner, you can of course see like a platform over there, and if we quickly rewind to the previous scene, you can also see in this section here, there appears to be like a platform on the right hand side with like a wooden scaffolding jutting out, and then there's area on the left as well. So in these typical kind of Elder Dragon fights we've had in the past, there tend to be very specific arenas where you fight them, and you'll then climb up in different areas, sometimes use things like ballistas and stuff to fire at them to do some damage. You'll of course then go down and attack them by the feet, because of course you are considerably smaller than them, but this does look like it's shaping up to be one of those fights. And of course it wouldn't be a Monster Hunter game without one. Like, every Monster Hunter game has some sort of epic fight like this, so if this is our first teaser of this, oh my gosh, I'm incredibly excited. I can't wait to see how it is to fight this thing, especially when you factor in the new mechanics, especially when you factor in how open the world is and things like that. You know, this could be a truly mind-blowing fight. So that's exciting. I'm hyped. Hopefully you guys are too, but that is pretty much it. The only thing the trailer rounds out with is this little section of the hunter giving a sausage to the cat, which is kind of funny. But anyway, that's it. That was my breakdown of the brand new trailer. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. Maybe you saw something I didn't, and if you did, then definitely comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think of the monsters, the new ones, the returning ones. What do you think of that Elder Dragon? Everything like that. Comment down below. I want to hear from you guys. I want to chat to you guys about this. Also, as a very quick reminder, don't forget that next week at Gamescom, Monster Hunter World will be playable. I will be there on the Tuesday, going hands-on with Monster Hunter World. I've got an appointment booked, both myself and TwoSixNine, so we're going to go and jump in, try and go hands-on with all the different weapons, and try and get you guys as much coverage as possible. So stay tuned next week. There will be lots of exciting Monster Hunter stuff coming your way. Also, as a reminder, my Nintendo Switch giveaway is still running for the next couple of days, so if you haven't entered that, I've also linked that down below. Thanks very much for watching. Take it easy. Catch you next time. Peace out.